This week on Crunchweek, we're talking about Google's acquisition of Nest, Yahoo's big management changes, and the blow to net neutrality. Hi, welcome to Crunchweek. I'm Leena Rao.
I'm Ryan Lawler.
And I'm Alex.
Well, it's a pretty big week for news. First off, Google acquiring Nest for $3.2 billion.
Yeah, it's a huge acquisition for Google. It's one of their biggest. I mean, I think behind Motorola, which was $12.5 billion. But yeah, huge news because this is their first entry into sort of the Internet of Things, and a lot of people, I think, when they looked at this, they're like, why is Google buying a thermostat? But I think it's I think it's so much more than that, because really I think what they're going to do with Nest is sort of what they did with Android. They're going to take that singular product, and then they're going to use it, create a platform around it, and then allow OEMs to build for that platform.
So you think it's like around the software too, right? It's like the application of the software plus now, of course.
Wait, so Nest is a platform?
Hardware.
It's not really. It's not yet. Nest only has two products. It has the thermostat and the smoke alarm. But I think the bigger deal here is that behind the scenes, there's a set of services that they could roll out and allow other Internet of Things companies to build for.
Okay.
That's interesting. And Nest was built on the Android operating system. Weren't they using Android tech? I think.
To be honest, I don't really know.
We'll double check on that one.
Was $3.2 billion all cash, or was it cash in stock?
Cash, I think.
Just cash.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So
that's a huge amount of money. I mean, you have to make that money back somebody to make the investment whole. And to have this not be like an A-quantive, I'm very curious how they're going to value that purchase internally on the balance sheet.
But I think that's probably
why I think
what Ryan is talking
they're
about.
going to turn it into a platform. Because I think there was a lot of talk about bringing on Tony Fadell, like one of the creators of the iPod, which is an interesting story in and of itself. Working for Google now.
Yeah.
But I mean, you don't spend that much money just to have an industrial design team.
You don't acqui-hire for $3.2 billion.
No, right.
That's ridiculous. But I don't see what they bought that's going to generate enough revenue to make the purchase price make sense long term, unless it becomes a pervasive platform with huge volume and that sort of thing. I don't see, people just assume Google is smart and will do smart things. Okay, that's fine. But what will the smart things be? Build a platform, build an API for your thermostat? I don't know. But I think it's pretty unclear right now if this was a financially smart move.
Well, I mean, the Internet of Things is still such I think it is really early days for the Internet of Things and like these other devices that are smart, that are all connected. I think they're betting early on that. I mean,
could this become the operating system for the Internet of Things?
Yeah, that's what he's basically saying.
That's what I'm saying.
That makes a lot of sense. Then okay, because that's not built yet. And if you do build that and you control that platform, that would be the Windows of the regular world, essentially.
Right, and it could be an Android-based operating. It could.
So it'll be buggy and it will be Windows. Okay, nailed it.
Right. But I mean, to that point, they've made big bets before that have worked out. They've made some that haven't worked out as well.
Motorola.
But I mean, when you look at YouTube, for instance, right? Like no one really thought that YouTube was worth $1.6 billion. At the time that it was acquired.
Right.
But it became the platform that pretty much all web video runs on right now.
That's incredible. YouTube cost half as much as Nest.
5 years ago, yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Have we gotten dumber, or is technology just better? Because YouTube, I don't know if you've heard about it, it's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, no, it is.
Whereas Nest is not such a big deal.
Well, I don't know.
By current market reach, YouTube at 1.6 versus
Remember,
Nest
Nest
at
is also like
3.2.
hardware stuff going on. Like there's a little it's comparing apples and oranges.
But what I'm saying is,
Google
if you look back 5 years ago, no one would have thought that YouTube would have been worth that much money.
I agree with that.
So.
And if this does become pervasive, as we think it will, and they can essentially buy that market and be its core, then $3.2 billion is cheap. The question is, can they and when?
Right.
And I think we'll be watching on a quarter-by-quarter basis, actually.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Well, other changes for Yahoo. Definitely it's been a big year for them. Like all eyes on them as Marissa took helm. But then just this past week announced that the COO is out. Basically, Marissa fired. I think it's Henrique de Castro, her COO. She actually brought him on. It was her first hire, one of her first big hires, and I think they worked together at Google. He was a former Googler, but basically she fired him. Obviously, it wasn't going so well, and then another big sort of change. Their editor, Jay Singh.
Formerly HuffPo, formerly
CNET.
He was a big name, but I thought that departure was a little less hilarious than the firing of the COO.
Yeah, that was
just... Because the COO was brought on for about as much money as the Titanic cost to build, and then to get his ass fired that fast is a fucking embarrassment.
He did pretty well, though. I mean, he walked away with a lot of money.
I mean, yeah.
What was it, $40 million or something?
It was really hard to parse the documents. I spent a lot of time on that, too, by the way. The point is, when he was brought on for, I think it was a $62 million pay package over 4 years. So to get fired in about, 14 months or whatever, 15 months, it's just, And when he was brought on, people wrote stories using, source people at Google who said he's not worth that much money. What the hell?
Yeah, well, he apparently had, a history of issues with HR. Like, he had some HR issues over at Google, according to reports. Like, he wasn't very well liked, and
he didn't get along with people.
Yeah, he had some troubles over there.
He was the Ryan Lawler of Google.
Thank you.
I see.
No, I get along with everybody here.
It's true. You're like the
nice
glue
Ryan
that holds us
Lawler.
Together.
Right. I just externally have that perception.
Yeah, I actually never got that. We'll go off the rails for a minute. People are like, he's so mean. I'm like, have you ever met him? He's a teddy bear.
What do you guys think about Yahoo's new editorial plans? I mean, they announced them last week at CES, and what do you guys think about that?
Well, with with their former head of editorial out, it's clear that they're going in a different direction with Pogue and the stuff that they're doing with Katie Couric and the stuff that they're doing around that. And I think it's kind of an admission that maybe what they were doing wasn't working, or that wasn't something that they wanted to continue down that line.
I can't imagine a more boring product than that was headed up by Couric and Pogue. I mean, are you ever going to tune in or
well, they're not attracting. They're not looking for us as readers. They're saying they want to appeal to the people that we don't serve. Apparently,
fine. But
by the way, they burned so much goodwill. If you're going to launch a new tech product and you do it in a way where you basically badmouth all of the existing tech press, I don't know, just as the existing tech press, I was pretty pissed off.
We got a good razzing, but at the same time, what Pogue was kind of promulgating as an idea and a product, I don't understand. I don't know what that middle ground is that he showed off. What does that look like? What will it be? You can only write about how to fix my printer buffer so many times in your life until it's kind of done. And so this idea of simple kind of mainstream tech for our parents or whatever, it strikes me as a very boring niche. But maybe Couric can cover it, and then it'll be more interesting.
Right.
Well, talk to us about net neutrality. To be honest, I don't feel like I know that much about why this Verizon decision was just such a big deal. But do you really think that this is going to mean that this?
It's a complete clusterfuck. This is really bad.
Is it?
Yeah. Okay. So essentially, the way we want the internet to function is that all traffic is equal. So that way, if I want to watch Netflix, you want to watch Hulu. It's equal. Because right now we have large ISPs that are attached to content companies. So if they're allowed to speed up and slow certain content, they can prioritize their own stuff, if they want to, over the stuff of their competitors, which you don't want as a consumer because you just want open, large, fast pipes.
Right.
And this gets even stickier when you think about the financial incentives at play. If I'm, say, Yahoo Tech, and I want my, I saw that, and I want my product to become more popular, I can pay, let's say, Comcast to make my content be delivered at a more quick pace. And this makes incumbent powers able to better dominate markets. This keeps out competition. YouTube would never have been born, going back to Ryan's point, in the age in which they had to pay extra for bandwidth delivery. So there's economic incentives, there's free speech problems, and so forth. And we could eventually see a more tiered internet, which would be, I think, antithetical to free speech and democracy.
So I feel like at the time, when the net neutrality situation first came up, when this question first came around, the question was that the ISPs would break down certain tiers of content, and you would pay a certain amount for basic internet, and then you'd pay a little bit more for internet plus Facebook, and then you'd pay a little bit more for streaming video or whatever. But that's not what this is about. This is about content providers being able to partner with the ISPs to offer free or better access to their content?
That was brought up recently in a mobile sense, that people were saying, can we deliver our stuff for free if we pay for the bandwidth to mobile customers? That's slightly different. That's also not a good trend. We also don't want that. Right. But this is a little bit different. I mean, if you do allow ISPs to decide what content is worthy for you to be able to see, you really do cede your ability to make your own choices. Right. And once you give them the keys to this, where do they stop? Well, are they therefore morally required to start filtering pornography if they can now control content? Can people put pressure on them to do that? What if Congress doesn't like that story that's been covered on NBC? Should Comcast slow that down? Right. I mean, once you give these levers open access, you don't know where it's going to stop, but you do know it's going to end somewhere very bad.
What do you think this means for Netflix? Because, Netflix is such a huge part of some of that content delivery. And
1/3 every evening.
Yeah, so... where are they?
I think Netflix will probably be fine. I mean, to Alex's earlier point, the question is what this means for non-incumbent providers that don't already have 25 million, 30 million subscribers.
Right. So like the startups of the world.
So yeah, this is really, really bad for startups. It's really, really bad for anyone who wants to deliver a new service over the internet and not have to compete with the incumbents on paying for preferential access.
Like Twitch, for example, which we cover all the time. Right. Could Twitch have been born in a world in which there was a higher marginal cost to deliver content to consumers? Probably not.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Netflix will be fine. They can afford to pay. They can raise their prices. They have enough of a market standing to do that. But I want the next Netflix. And I don't want anyone to stand in the way of that by tiering my internet and removing the ability for us to build new stuff. So down with this, I say. And it's going to be a big legal battle this year. This could almost reach on par with the importance of the NSA stuff we're talking about as well. So
awesome.
I think we need to gear up, load our guns, and get to work.
All right. Well, that's a good way to end. Thanks so much for joining us, and tune in next